So I'm just going to be totally honest with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
This week, I had so many topics that I could talk about. So
Mm.
there were so many issues that came up either with people that I was just having a conversation with things that I saw, with some of our clients,
Yeah.
just speaking with people, just situation after situation. So this week was really hard which topic to pick, and so as the week went on further and further, I was just like, Jason, I really don't know what to discuss because there's so many
So many.
important issues in relationships. And so we have been over the past couple of weeks really trying to get people to understand that um, the successful relationships start with the person, right?
Yeah.
So it starts with me being able to be not only committed to the relationship, but committed to my spouse and committed to me being a better person in whatever aspect that is, which means that I have to be able to recognize some of the things that I do that may not be beneficial to my relationship. And so when I was trying to, um, over the past couple of weeks, establish a guideline on how to help people understand that self development is truly important, that it reminded me that sometimes we forget that
Mm.
there's two people in the relationship,
Mhm.
right? It's not just you and your feelings, but it's the feelings of you and your mate. So,
And you have the relationship feelings because the relationship has feelings too.
so we settled on this week for emotional intimacy, and
Mm.
you know, we define intimacy in many different ways. So we just want to help you to understand that intimacy means a connection, a closeness,
Yep.
a space where I may be feeling a certain way, and I know that I can be intimate with you, which means that I can be vulnerable. I can let down my guard and let you know how I'm feeling without any repercussions, without me being resistant or me holding back because I don't know how you're going to react. So, intimacy is not just sexual, it's a connection that two people share, whereas they shouldn't share it with anyone else, right?
Right.
You have intimate friends, right? Not sexual friends. So you have friends that you share certain things with and friends that you don't. Your mate should be that person that you pretty much share everything with because you feel as though you can be yourself. And if you're not being yourself with your mate, then that right there is a red flag as to what you should start looking at.
Connection.
Right. So
So.
when we talk about emotional connection,
Hmm.
what do you think as a man, from a man's perspective, what do you think that means for you?
That means that I should be able to bring things to my spouse and share it. So
Mm-hmm.
if something happens to me throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
and I pick and choose how I'm going to tell this story and not share the whole story
Mm-hmm.
with my wife, then I'm losing some connection with her because I'm not really being present with her and sharing everything that actually went on with me that I would love to share with her. But like, well, if I say this, then she may ask about this or that, and now I'm not really giving it all to her like I should. But I can go out and speak to someone else and just tell them the story just as it happened, and then we build up a bond, and that can create a problem because now I'm not sharing everything, and it may be nothing to it. I'm not sharing everything with my wife, but I am having this conversation with someone else, and I'm giving them all the full details. I have no problem with sharing everything, but then that becomes a problem because as I pull closer to someone else, I'm really pulling away from my main relationship with my spouse. So sometimes we start out small with little things like that, sharing little stuff like, oh, you know what, I'll tell my friend, and we use that, I tell my friend, but I'm not going to share that with my wife. And then sometimes we get caught up in conversations where people are talking,
And your
and,
spouse don't know about it.
right, and then you be like, I told you about that. And she's like, no, you didn't tell me about it. I didn't tell you about that. She's like, no,
Right,
now, so see, that's how problems happen, right?
right,
Now, not
right.
only are you not sharing things, now you now have a situation because you didn't went out there and said, I shared that with you. I know I did. So that's that's one of the things that I would like to get over to the males. I would like to be able to express myself to my mate with no issues. I just want to come in and tell you the story or tell you what happened. And I want you to listen like you're my friend.
And I think most of the times when we talk about emotional connections, we don't realize that we can build an emotional connection with anyone. So
Yeah.
if something happens to us, or something that we're excited about, or something that we want to share with someone, and the first person we get on the phone with is either our sister or our best friend or our coworker or our neighbor, then that means that your mate is, you don't have an emotional connection. And building an emotional connection can be either a person of the same sex, but it's even more dangerous when you have it built with someone of the opposite sex.
Ooh.
So even though you may be platonic friends, which Jason and I early in our relationship had to really establish some boundaries when it came to that, because I am a people person, he is a people person, and women have a tendency of sharing and expressing with him and talking with him.
Yeah.
And even though he may looked at it as platonic, we had to make sure that we had boundaries when it came to, okay, when someone's sharing something that's really intimate with that person,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, wait a minute, like, okay, you're creating
A
an
bond.
emotional
Oh,
attachment,
you are. You are
a
creating a bond.
connection that's way beyond
Some
just
friendship.
platonic friends,
Yep.
right? Which means that you're connecting on a deeper level, even though it is platonic, or even though it may not be sexual. Emotional connections are way more dangerous sometimes than physical connection,
For sure.
right? Because now you are connected to that person. So we really wanted to help you guys to understand that most of the times we're not even aware of this.
Right.
Sometimes we are, sometimes we're not. But we go out and we do this unintentional. So because we have built up this habit or rapport with our spouse, where now we're not really where we used to be in the beginning of our relationship, where we're not
Right.
sharing, right?
Right.
And so,
Because at first we're sharing everything, right?
exactly.
We're open. It's not a problem.
Yep.
Then we start cherry picking about how we're going to have this conversation with each other.
Or our relationship, right? We push that automatic,
Yep. Yep.
auto cruise,
Right.
and then somehow we have drawn apart. So when we want to share something, because our relationship is in a state where neither one of us are really trying to repair it or fix it or take it off of automatic cruise control,
Right.
the first person we turn to when we want to share something is we turn outside of the marriage.
Yep.
Or we don't even think
Mm-hmm.
to share things with our mate. Most of the time, our mates sometimes don't
Don't
even
have
know
a clue.
don't have a clue what's going on with
No.
us.
Don't know how you feel about certain things.
Don't know where you've been. Don't
Right.
know where you usually go. Don't know who your friends are, who you
Right.
talk to.
And then people wonder, like, how did affairs happen? How did this happen? How did we drift apart? Because once you start building these other bonds, you're pulling away from your main spouse. Or you should be your only spouse, but
Pull away from your main spouse.
Right.
Your main squeeze.
right. So you're pulling away from your spouse,
Right.
and you're just saying, okay, well, they may need some space or whatever. But then you look up, and something else comes in. Now you have an affair, or someone is building a closer bond with somebody outside of the marriage, and you wonder, well, how did this happen? We had a decent relationship, so sometimes you recognize that you don't have that tight bond, but you really can't put your finger on it. It's like we get along, we don't argue, but we also don't share much either. We don't confide in each other. So, and that's the first thing that leaves, right? You're not confiding in one another.
Or even let's flip it to those relationships where people are not communicating, right? So you're in a relationship right now. You're in a marriage where you guys are just pretty much coexisting, right? You're existing, and your day to day is not making sure that your mate is involved in it.
Right.
So part of our thing here is to not only bring the issues to awareness, but to also offer some type of tools or, help in those areas. Not that we know it all, but we do know of some things that help because, like I said, Jason and I found ourselves in several sticky situations within our 33 years of marriage, going in and out of things that we should do and shouldn't do. And sometimes you don't know, and because you haven't experienced it yet. But if these are signs, and these are things that can help you kind of start small to build that relationship back. So if you are not really in an effective communication relationship, if you are in a relationship where you guys are pretty much just kind of married but not really that confidant of each person, where
Yeah.
that your mate is not that first person that you want to run to, we would definitely suggest, like, let's try something small. Let's do something different. We can't continue to do the same things in our relationships expecting them to get better. And sometimes we want to play the blame game, but what are we doing? What are you doing as an individual? I had to ask myself, what am I doing that's making him feel as though he can't confide in me, right? What am I displaying? So, which means that lots of times when I had first information, whether with the kids or whatever was going on with me, I would run to my sisters. I would get on the phone and be like, "Oh, let me tell you X, Y, Z." And even though it wasn't to leave him out, or maybe
Right.
he would have been second or third, in his eyes, he didn't feel that he was valued or important
Right.
enough to be the first person that I came to. Or I didn't tell him at all, right? So once I got it off my chest,
You were
once
done with it
I was done with it, he was,
until you had that conversation. You'd be like, "Oh, I told you about that."
or you was like, well, what happened with this? And I'm like,
Right.
oh, it was nothing. And the person feels left out,
Sure.
and you may not see it like that, but that's how they feel. So that's when we have to um, really become aware of the things that we do in our relationship that we play a part in.
That's a good point. It's like someone knowing the joke except for you. Everybody knows what's going on in the joke except for you, and then you start to feel like, "Am I the joke?" You know, because everybody knows what's going on. No one has spoken in full sentences, but everybody understands what everybody's saying except for me. So now I'm feeling left out. If I'm supposed to be number one, then why don't I know anything about
Right.
what's going on? If it's not that important, I mean, you could easily share. Oh, it's nothing. I didn't tell you because of whatever. I didn't. Oh, okay, yeah. And then after that happens so many times, you start to go, well, maybe I'm not as that important to you,
Right.
right? Maybe our relationship isn't. Maybe you don't trust me like you say you do. Or if I want to tell you something, hey, this happened, and then you come on, and then before I can get to the end of the story, then I always say you get interrogated, like, okay, well, what happened? Well, when this happened and you said this, what were you really thinking? Like, nothing. I'm just telling you how the story went, and that's all I wanted to tell you. So sometimes we don't let the other person really explain the situation and just tell the story the way it actually happened instead of reading into it.
Right. So, what I would suggest as we go on in our relationship is that you start small in your relationship. Let's try to make a difference and have a different impact. Let's try something different and see really what the outcome is. So we always try to make demonstrations, in other areas of our lives, right? Let's try to see what actually happens in our relationship if we start small and start communicating with our mate about the things that's going on with us, even if it's small,
Right.
even if it's something small or something minute, something that you think, even if you tell, just, because if, like I said, if you're in a relationship where you guys are not sharing,
Yep.
and you're building that, you building that connection outside of your relationship, and even if it's platonic or not, you're still building it with someone else other than your mate, which means that your connection cannot be closer. And once we build emotional connections, then we can move on to building communication connections, then building sexual connections, and then building trust connections. So we have to create a space that our mate feels safe, and we have to start somewhere. So Jason and I would start small with small conversation. I would be aware of the things that, yeah, hey, did I tell you XYZ? Hey, did I let you know this is going on? And rebuilding those lines of communication and trust.
Right.
That's what we
Right.
have to do. We have to
Right.
understand that emotional connections are so important because it creates that safe space where you can go deeper and then create other connections intimately. And that's what we want. We want to have intimate connections with our mate, whatever areas it is in. We want to feel intimately connected to our mate in all areas.
Right. Right.
Right?
So yeah, so like you said, I want to be able to tell you what I need to tell you, and I need you to trust me as I'm telling you this, so we can get through it. There's nothing worse than me starting to tell you a story that something happened. I'm excited to tell you, and then I'm getting dissected along the way, and now I feel like it's I'm somehow got pushed into the story and it's a different way, and I'm defending myself to tell the story that I just really want to tell you, and I didn't have anything to do with it.
Creating a safe space.
Right. So
Absolutely,
now it's not
absolutely.
even safe. So now it's like, okay, like I said before, now I'm not really going to have that conversation with my mate. I may have this conversation with somebody outside.
Just so you can.
And it's innocent because it's a funny story or whatever.
Right.
I'm just telling you. right? So now I'm sharing. And what happens? After a while, you start to share again and more and more. And as Tina said, it starts to get a little bit more intimate as you start to share because now you done built up a trust. And the worst thing you can have is a emotional relationship with someone outside of your marriage, which we call our friends or our best friends or whatever.
Said it doesn't matter whether it's with someone of the same sex or the opposite sex, whether it's a
Yeah.
relative or a friend. The thing is that you are now sharing with that person what you're not sharing with your mate. So now the connection that is important for two mates to have in order to keep the bond strong, you are now slowly but surely deteriorating that connection that you have. And if that connection is already gone, then how do you start to rebuild it? Right? You need to become aware that let your mate be, let's start sharing more of what's going on with us. Let's stop thinking that, if I, as I said, lots of times people ask our opinion when their relationship is on the lines of, well, we don't communicate very well, we're not connected very well, we're no longer, seeing eye to eye. And it takes a bigger person to say, well, do I really want to be in this relationship? And if I do, then I have to start to create those connections that we had in the beginning. I have to reconnect them. I have to start doing things over because we have put our marriage on cruise control. And now we want, if you really want your relationship, you're going to have to do something different. Nagging or fussing or doing the same thing that you did yesterday
Right.
is not going to create a connection. It's going to create a disconnection. So we have to try to do things differently. We have to try to be um, more aware of the things that we're doing that's causing the disconnect and start small with just sharing small things, even if it's, hey, I'm going to the grocery store, I'll be back in 5 minutes, because sometimes people
We'll just
leave.
get up and
Well, just people get up and leave, and their mate is none the wiser, but they've gotten used to it, so they don't care. So now we're in a relationship of not caring. Oh, she's all, and if something happens to you, no one knows where you went or what happened, right?
right.
So if we want to truly build, start get,
Emotional bonds.
and getting stronger
Right.
relationships, we have to start somewhere. We have to start at the
I
ground
mean,
and
like
work our
you're
way
not
up.
telling everything, but you know how you have that you thing that you want to share with your mate. I mean, like,
Or
hey,
just share anything.
right, you just
You
want to
just
come
want
home
to
and
share.
right, like, man, I had a great day today, and I want to be able to share it and come home and tell you about it. But then I just can't because we just don't have that line of communication. I may start it, but then I start leaving out stuff. Then if I go talk to my friend, I can tell them the whole story and how happy I was in that in that story and how my day
Right.
went and everything, and it's no problem. But you need to be able to get that way with your spouse.
You have to
Now,
get back. Yeah.
right. But now remember, now we're in the form of we're elevating and we're changing, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
if you're in that phase where you guys don't communicate well, you know in your heart that you're not sharing like you would like to.
Yep.
And we
Yep.
know
Yep.
we're not sharing the way we should, right?
Absolutely.
So you start small and you start sharing certain things and you get back to you two, right? You get back to I want to share with you. I want to let you in to my life so we can grow together. And
And see how that makes a difference in
right,
your
and that,
relationship.
it
See
will
how
make a
see how
difference.
your mate responds, because
Right.
if you're not connected, and you take that initial step just to see where it's going to lead, right? Because
Hmm.
sometimes we throw the towel in on our relationships and we just continue to live out the rest of our lives either as roommates, or we decide that this is not what we want. But deep down inside, we really still love the person. We want it to work. We just don't know how to make it work. So start small. Start that elevation, right? Say, it takes for you to either. So I'm gonna talk to my sisters right now, because
Not
I
your
just don't.
sisters, but not your sisters.
I'm gonna talk to the ladies right now
Okay, your
to get
sisters.
to
I
get
got
you
you.
to understand that.
I thought you
Let's
were gonna
see,
give up some secrets
it's
if you said your sister.
check and see if we have
Yep.
any
No.
comments. All right, so ladies, like, I'm just gonna get on you. Lots of times it's us, right? We get stubborn, we get bullheaded, we have just as much as big ego as the men.
Hmm.
And so now we're setting our ways and we're like, I'm tired of this situation. I'm tired of saying the same thing. I'm tired of acting the same way. I'm tired of feeling like I'm not loved. I'm tired of feeling like I'm rejected, whatever the situation is. But
Hmm.
what we have to understand is that the reason why we're feeling that way is not only because that's what we see, but we're giving it out. We're giving out those things that does not, it's not what we want. We're giving out the, it's really like a cry for help. You're upset, you're angry, you're disgusted, and you don't know what to say or what to do because you don't want to seem like you've given in.
Right.
But sometimes it takes someone to put on their big girl panties or the big men underwear and be the bigger person to say, let me start creating a safe space to see where this goes. Right. Sometimes it just takes one person to take one step after another.
For sure.
Let's not feed into it. Let's not think about the past. Let's not think about the past hurt. Let's not think about what happened yesterday. Let's just step out on faith and see what we want, and then take that first initial step to say, let me be the person to start the conversation, even if it's something small. Right. Hey, did you eat today? Hey, how are you feeling? Just something that will throw your mate completely off of their center because they're not expecting it. And sometimes when you do the unexpected, that is the best response you can give someone, because they don't know how to react because you've never done that. Whereas we usually come at them with something negative or something insulting or something angry. Let's try a different approach and see if we get a different outcome. Because we all know, everybody knows it, right? Doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome is insanity. And if we want relationships, if we want healthy, true, groundbreaking, established relationships, we're going to have to start doing things different. We can't look at the norm, right, because somewhere along the lines we have pushed the button of automatic
cruise control,
automatic pilot. We have put our relationships on cruise control. They have taken over, and we don't even know what happened, when it happened, or how to, get the relationship back.
You close for so long, you don't know. You just riding momentum at that time.
All right, so why don't you tell them? Actually, we have an assessment on our website that you can take.
Yep, it's a checklist for you guys to download. It is under legendaryrelationship.com / emotional. So legendaryrelationship.com / emotional.
And it's a checklist to see, and it's asking you, are you creating a safe space for you and your mate?
Yep.
For emotional connection.
Yeah.
And so we want you to go get this checklist and just read it and be honest with yourself, because it's only between you and you. Be honest with yourself. Go down the checklist and see if you are checking the boxes. Where are you falling short in helping to create that emotional connection? And I think that is the first step. When we first meet someone, the first thing we want to do is get to know each other. How do we get to know each other? We get to know each other on an emotional level. We get to know each other's likes, dislikes. We get to know somebody's temperament. You get to know their personality. That's what we're trying to do. So again, I'm going to cut myself off and say, if you guys are out there and you want us to shout you out, make sure you put a comment, make sure you like, make sure you share, make sure that you are sharing this information with others who may be going through some little bumps in the road in their relationship, and they truly don't know where to turn or what to do. Because oftentimes we don't always have the answers, and the first place we turn to is people who we trust, that we think have the answers. And if you're a person that someone turns to you for answers, give them something that they can actually benefit from. Say, hey, check this out. Whether it's our podcast, whether it's our channel or someone else's, it doesn't hurt to share information if the information is beneficial and positive. Right. So we want to make sure that we are making sure that we're sharing this information. Do we have any likes? So guys, make sure you like so we can shout you out, that you share, that you subscribe to our channel. So I want to say, hello, Regina. Good to see you again. And then...
Sandra.
No, that doesn't say so.
Oh.
What does it say? Yep. Get this thing right here.
Pastor Buchanan.
Tasha Buchanan. All right. See, when I don't know the name, I can't see the name. Hello, Tasha. Thanks for joining us. So, guys, and let's stop creating emotional attachment and connections with anyone and everyone. All right. So
that's the first thing.
Yeah. So if you're not married, right? Because if you're not married, we have to make sure that as we're building just a relationship with someone or a rapport, that we're not automatically just dumping our purse on the table, as one of our podcasts said, right? We're not just dumping our purse and trying to force or just sharing our emotional connections with anyone. So that's also a big issue too, because then our feelings get hurt. Then we don't know really how to, when that right person comes along, we don't know how to create correct emotional
Emotional.
connections
Yeah.
because we've been doing it wrong all this time, and then now
We've
we're
been invested
afraid.
in
Right.
relationships that weren't going.
And now we're afraid to actually be vulnerable or show that side
Yeah.
because it never worked out in the past. So let's stop creating unnecessary things in our lives that we don't need. All right. All right. You want to get bigger? Jason knows I'm here.
That's right. That's right. I know that you're here.
And,
Thank you.
and actually, Sandra, this Friday, like I said, it was so many things. Sandra posed a very good question last Friday when she said, "So, am I changing myself or am I changing my relationship?"
Yeah.
And our answer to her was, "You can't change your relationship until you change yourself." So this Friday was really also centered around that. We had so many topics to talk about because there are so many issues in relationships, and if we start from the bottom and we just continue week after week to understand the importance of who we are in the relationship, our value in the relationship,
Yep.
and creating a safe space not just for our mate but for ourselves, right? And so, Jason, if you want to, you can just read some of the checklist off. But guys, I really would encourage you guys to go to legendaryrelationship.com and
Emotional.
/emotional
Hmm.
and do this checklist. So here are some of the things that we're asking you. Are you creating a safe space emotionally, either with your mate or your potential mate?
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So
Yeah. I am comfortable expressing my feelings in a loving manner with my mate. Sounds simple, but a lot of times we're not comfortable.
or we're not doing it in a loving manner.
See, I was going for comfortability. I wasn't going for, but you're right.
And it's
You're right.
yeah, because
You're right.
sometimes we are caught up in that automatic pilot. We communicate with each other, and our dynamics have been created over time, and we are stuck in this rut. I see this, I say that, you say this, I say that, and I mean, we could really be asleep and go through the whole scenario, and not skip a beat. That's how stuck in our rut we are in our relationships. And so, when you are aware of something, aware means you know it, you recognize it, you see it. So if we're not aware, if we're not bringing these issues up front and close in your face, then how are you going to know what to do?
Yeah. They say, well,
Right?
I want to communicate. I'm doing better. Yada yada yada.
It's my mate. It's
Right.
my mate. It's
Right.
my mate.
Yeah, I'll do better, but we haven't really done it. So, but here's some. I mean, it's a good one. I haven't.
And again, when you take this,
Mm-hmm.
be honest. Be
You're right.
honest with
You know,
yourself.
a few of them, but you have to be honest.
Yes.
I have a clear awareness of my boundaries, which most people don't. That's why they have issues because
And then,
boundaries is a whole nother thing
yes,
we're going to get into. Because people don't have a problem overstepping their boundaries in your relationship.
you have established them. Now that you want to set
That's
the,
worse.
it makes it harder because you have you've set this relationship in motion without them, and now you're trying to create them. But again, we can set those boundaries up. We can set up safe boundaries. We can set up boundaries that really work for everyone if we learn to, one, communicate, and two, start small. Start building our relationship back emotionally, because when the person feels like they're not being attacked, then it's easier for them to let down their guard and be willing to compromise, to set up boundaries, to say, okay, well, what was I doing wrong? Well, what don't you like about what I'm doing? What didn't you like? How did I say it wrong? And so, I'm a person. I was guilty of saying things that may have sounded a little too aggressive, but wasn't intended that way.
Okay.
Right? All right. So,
I like that. I see where you're going with this, baby.
and my friend Sandra is just like me. Sometimes she says things that's really aggressive, but she doesn't even know it.
Yeah.
Right, Sandra? Let's read this next.
Yeah.
Before you read another, we got another comment.
Okay, cool.
Can you make it big so I don't have to put on my glasses?
Yep.
I asked my husband, can I wear my glasses tonight? And he said no. So I just want to give a shout out to the $1.25 store, because I got the ones, the 1.25, the 1.5, and then the 1.75 and the 2. So I got like a whole array. And so I'm like, does this work? Yep, that one works. All right, this one don't work. If this is too strong, I have them for next time. So a shout out to the $1.25 store, because I don't have to pay $59 for each prescription and then it doesn't work. All right, so let's hear from Kelly. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Kelly.
Disconnection or stagnation on any level within a relationship can be overcome by creating a safe place, yes, with a foundation of honesty and personal desire to turn towards our mate with creative ideas to reconnect. Yes, hence loving manner is very important. Absolutely.
Yep.
And most of the time, Kelly, you're so right. Most of the time, we really do want to build that bond back with our mate, right?
Of course we do.
We really do want to have
That's
that
why
connection.
we got together with them in the first place, because we love them. We feel like we have a future together.
Or whatever it is, somewhere along the lines, there was a miscommunication and we started drawing apart. And this person started doing this. And again, we if we don't spot these things early on, then it's like a snowball effect. Our
Yeah.
relationship becomes something we don't even want or recognize, and then we're ready to go somewhere else. But it doesn't matter where you go because you're taking yourself with you until you learn to establish and be self-aware of the things that you do.
Right.
That doesn't make it a safe space, right? So, like I said, Jason was expressing, so oftentimes he would want to come to me and tell me a story, and as I'm listening to it, he would pause and mutter, and I'd be like, "Is that it? Is that the truth?" And then he was like, "Well, I don't want to tell you anything because I feel like I'm being interrogated." And then I would say, "Well, if you just tell me the story, I don't have to interrogate you, right?"
But if it's my story, I should be able to tell it the way I want to tell it,
And
with
so-
all the pauses and everything. Like when you tell your stories, I sit there, right, and I go through it. Yes.
And so I had to realize that I was not creating a safe space for him to share. He's like, I feel like you feel like there's more to it, and it's not. And I would say, I feel like there's more to it, and you're not telling me. And so the immaturity in our relationship, right?
Yeah.
And it's something to laugh at now. Back then, it was nothing to laugh. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah,
what happened?
I'm debating, like, should I tell her this? No, because she's going to ask me this question, and I don't have an answer for that because it don't have anything to do with this
Just tell me the story. You don't have to worry about what I'm going to ask. And so,
until I start telling the story.
so we really want, and we're laughing about it now, but this is serious in relationships.
Yeah.
If we don't create that safe space for our mate to be able to share, then we can't create safe boundaries. We cannot reconnect. We cannot create an intimate relationship. We cannot rebuild what we have pretty much torn down because we've neglected it, right? So every relationship deserves a fair fight. All right. Kelly says setting clear boundaries that are shared and discussed are important.
Yeah.
And
And sometimes we don't even know, we don't even understand. First of all,
Sometimes
we don't even
Yeah.
understand our own boundaries. We don't even understand when someone crosses our boundaries. We don't have any set up. So for somebody to just come and overstep their boundary is not a problem because you don't even know. So
and you don't know how to express
and you
it.
don't know how to express it.
Yeah.
Like, I know it'll kind of make me feel kind of awkward or whatever, but
I don't know what to do or what
I
to
don't know what to do because I
Yeah.
don't have clear boundaries set up.
Right.
So,
Right.
and that's why I said you have to get yourself first in order so you understand what your boundaries are, and then you can
express that.
right.
Yeah.
And actually, if you understood your boundaries, then people would know not to cross them. You wouldn't even have to really say anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that that was one of the things in my relationship that I knew myself so well that I knew that tell your tell your story your way.
Thank
Don't-
you,
don't
Kelly.
encourage him, Kelly.
Thank
Don't
you,
encourage
Kelly.
him.
Yes.
Right. But and right
Because it's my story, and I just want to share my story with my baby.
and I did not. I'm guilty. I did not give him a safe space to share. And it did have an effect on our relationship. I did notice that he would stop sharing things with me. And then I would hear him on the phone talking to other people, talking about it. And it did make me feel some type of way.
It was a jolly good old time because it was just a fun situation with him. Yeah.
So making sure that we are establishing ourselves in being aware of the things that we're doing that's not creating a safe space or that's not encouraging us to be emotionally connected. So if the first thing we do is not share with our mate, but we share with our neighbor, the person down the street, the grocery
Yeah.
man, hey, I'm getting ready to go do XYZ. If you call your friend up on the phone or your partner or your business, whatever, and you're letting them know, hey, today I'm doing this, this, and this, but you're not sharing that with that mate. That's that aha moment to say, what am I doing in my relationship that I can do differently? That may be that very first, that little tumble snowball effect that I can do that creates that emotional connection that's worthy. And again, I can't say enough. Don't create emotional connections with just any old body because your feelings will get hurt because everyone doesn't value you as a person that you value you. So let's be careful in who we do share and connect with emotionally. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead and give a couple. So here's a couple of more of the checklists. And we want you guys to go and look at this checklist and ask yourself, am I displaying this in my relationship? Am I creating a safe space to create an emotional connection? And if you're not, then you got to start thinking about what am I doing and how can I do it better? So going back to Sandra's question and comment, we have to change ourselves
We gotta change ourselves.
before our relationship can change or before we can even establish a good relationship with someone else. We can't expect to keep going into a new relationship and we haven't healed from the last one or we haven't confronted the issues of the last one. We have to be healed and whole, and it may take a whole lot, but the first thing we have to do is be aware of the things that we're carrying that may not be beneficial to us. All right, some more things, baby.
Now need to turn down the intensity of my emotions towards my mate. That's key. I mean,
So
because
that's
sometimes that's right. Intensity.
intensity, because
Sometimes
sometimes we can.
people could know how to express themselves.
Sometimes it can be intense, not because of your mate, but because of all the other things.
Understand?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So that projection we talked about, right? I can be upset with
Anything.
the whole, like last week I came in and I was upset with, whatever. I could be upset with what went on at the grocery store. I could be upset with my daughter. I could be upset with anybody. And as soon as Jason does something that would typically, upset me, now there's a whole bunch of intensity that I have now gathered up all this momentum from all that other stuff.
And here come that storm. And go.
And it has nothing to do with that last bag of chips, right? So
It's
we
like,
have
this
to
has
be
nothing to
aware.
do with me.
So read that again. I am what? So this is, ask yourself, what
I
would
know how to turn down the intensity of my emotions towards my mate.
right? Sometimes we can't do that.
I mean, why?
In the heat of the
Why do
moment.
we get so heated with the person that we say we love and we care about? Why do we take the intensity of emotions and anger and all that
insults and
give it to the
negativity,
person that
we saying we care about the most, right?
it's just something to ponder.
It is.
Yeah, it's
It
just
is.
something to ponder.
The
That's all.
you stand to do with the person you share your home with, whether you guys.
Or even if you're trying to get to the I do, right? You okay, we're dating with a purpose, and I love you. I see that we have a future, but I'm so intense when it comes to having a conversation with you or interacting with you.
Yeah.
But I say I love you. It's just something to think about.
Share one thing that they could ask. And this is a checklist that you just need to go down and be honest with yourself, and let's start doing things different in our relationship. Let's take our relationship off of cruise control. And it starts with us. It starts with you as the individual, because as easily as I could blame Jason for doing something, where if you hadn't done this, then my reaction wouldn't have been that. And the truth of the matter is my reaction is fully my control. And it doesn't matter what anyone does or say to me, good, bad, or indifferent. It's how I perceive it and how I receive it and how I respond.
Yeah.
That's what we have to understand. It's my response that makes the difference. And and as I think your cousin Nikki last week said, the power is in the tongue, right?
Yep.
So it's not what happened, but then how do I lash out at what I don't like? So now, instead of me lashing out in a more positive way to get a positive response of what I really want, now I'm lashing out in a negative way with a negative tongue. And does that make him love me anymore? Absolutely not. Absolutely. So we got to stop this crazy merry-go-round that we think of round and round and round, and something's going to change, right? The only thing that's going to change is you're going to jump off the merry-go-round, you're going to be aware of what you're doing, and you're going to make the change.
I am comfortable admitting my limitations and less admirable traits when I feel safe.
Yep. All right. So we got another comment. So these are some of the things that you guys can go and go get that checklist and read it. All right. So thank you, Kelly, for your other comment. I'm working on my checklist. Doing the same methods that haven't worked is unhealthy and defeats elevation. Absolutely.
Yep.
And
Talking about pumping your brakes. That's how you pump your brakes right there.
Yep. Absolutely,
exactly
Kelly. We gotta know that it takes it. My self-work continues.
Amen, sister.
And the thing is that if it stops, you've stopped.
Right.
So only time it should stop is if you have transitioned to another place in time.
Right.
But as long as we are here on earth in this physical body, we have to continue to do the work nonstop, because if we don't, then we are falling back into the old pattern of what we know is comfortable, what we accept,
Yep.
even though we don't want it, we are really creating more of it, right? We're focusing on the things we don't want, but we're getting more of it. Let's stop focusing on what we don't want, and let's start being aware of what we do want and creating that change, that mindset shift, that shift in the atmosphere where everything starts working together and you don't even know when or how it started because you took that first step in saying, it begins with me. All right, we got any more? Guys, again, don't forget if you are watching on the replay, don't forget to like and share. It doesn't take anything to share. Just hit the share button. You don't have to make any comments, like, share, and go and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Legendary Relationship. Also, don't forget if you haven't gotten the free ebook, go get the free ebook.
Yep.
If you are looking for the old podcast, you can find them at Legendary Relationship /info. All of our stuff are there. All of our connections are there. All of our partnerships and everything. So you can go there. But for the download for today is Am I Creating a Safe Space for Emotional Connection or emotional connections or intimacy, either one. You can go to Legendary Relationship
.com/emotional.
You say that as if I wasn't gonna remember what it was.
Yeah, I know you know. I know you know. I'm just here.
You just finished.
We're a team,
sentence.
baby. So you know I always finish your team. I mean, you're.
All right, so guys, don't forget to subscribe. So this is going to be a chill Friday. I already got.
It's always a chill Friday. We just having a conversation with
That's
people.
right. So if you guys have any other comments or what are your thoughts on how you can rebuild some, emotional connections and maybe even share stories of how you don't build emotional connections with your mate, but you build it outside and you don't even see that. Right? So we've also heard stories, where people build emotional connections outside of their relationship, and then when their relationship falls apart,
They end up
with the person who they built
with,
and they go, "Oh no,
it just happened."
nope, nope." We
You
have
cultivated that happening.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. You created connections that, and let me say this: when you are doing that outside of your marriage, because this is something as humans we need. We need emotional connections, right? And if we don't have a husband or a mate, we find it in someone else, a relative, a friend, a close associate, because that's what we need. We need someone to confide in. We need someone to share with. But my thing would be is be aware that if you're not doing it with your mate, you are doing it. You are doing it because that need is being fulfilled outside, which means you're doing it either through your grandkids, you're doing it through your kids, you're doing it through your sisters, you're doing it through your brothers. You are building an emotional connection with someone. And if you're not doing it with your mate, you're definitely building it outside because that's just something that we do as humans. We do that. We build emotional connections. And our mate is now even more on the outside than before.
And it's easy once you have that little space between you. It's easy for someone or something to come between you.
Whether it's a disagreement or whatever.
Just gonna say it's quick for a disagreement to come in there, a misunderstanding.
Absolutely.
It's real easy because you're not seeing eye to eye anyway. You guys could be talking about the exact same thing in two different ways, and you can have an argument about it because you don't see eye to eye, and the other person don't see what you're saying.
All right. So, all right. I think that is it. Had a long week. I think that's it for today. We thank you guys for joining us. If there are no more comments, we thank you for all your comments, all of your tuning in. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back next Friday with another topic. So, if there's no more interaction, I've given my 2 cents. Jason, you want to give any more 2 cents?
I think I gave all my 2 cents.
All right. So
well, let me read it. Can I read one more?
Yep.
Let me find a good one.
All right. They're all good.
They are. They are.
All right. So let's build those emotional connections.
I don't know if I read this. Is my this one? My ability to be present with my mate is strong. My ability to be present with my mate is strong.
So do we know what that is? My ability to be present. Oftentimes, as women, we can do 5 or 6 things at one time, and our attention is on everything and anything. And sometimes I even think I'm listening and I'm not, and I'll be like, "What did you say, Jason?" Then I said, what did you say again?
Yeah.
So your ability to be present makes the person know that they are important to you. And that's what we mean. Importance also creates that safe space. If I feel like I'm not important to you, then I'm not going to give you the
I'm not
time
gonna
of
be
day.
sharing.
If you're not giving me the time of day, it's just as simple as that. Like there's some things we just know as humans, right? With some things we just know by living. If I'm not important to you, you are not going to be important to me. So again, we have to break down those barriers. We have to tear down those walls that we have created between us and our mate, or don't build them at all now as we move into a new relationship or building relationships. Let's start the foundation off right. We have any other comments? All right. All right. Thank you, Nancy, for
Thank you,
joining
guys.
us.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we are out of here for another Friday. We hope you enjoy your Friday. So Kelly said, don't give up on loving and the importance of being present. Oh, yes, yes, that is so important. All right, so guys, don't give up on your relationship until you know that you have done everything that you can do within your power. Stop looking for the other person to make it right. Start with you. If you want something different, be that change.
Right.
Be
You
that
have to
change you
change.
want in your relationship. And I know that,
Don't
like you
look for
said,
it. Right. Look for it in your mate. Be it.
be it. Be
Be
it.
it. Show it. And act it.
That's right. You think I don't want to do this because I'm the one giving in, or I feel like they should do it. See, again, it's the thought process. We're thinking the wrong way. If we want a loving relationship, what do we have to be?
Loving. At
If we
least
want a
start.
happy relationship, what do we have to be?
At least loving a little bit.
Right. So we got to be happy.
Yes.
We have to be at a place where we understand that um, I have to be the change I want. I have to be aware. I have to ask myself those hard questions and not just look to my mate to do everything and be everything, but what can I do? Right? Because sometimes when you give a little, then the other person is willing to give a little. And you may really be surprised what your mate wants and have not expressed just because things are at a tension between you two, right? The tension. So start small, start somewhere, but
Yeah.
just start. Just start.
Emotional bond.
Yes. Start it.
Everything right. Start it, build, cultivate, make it grow.
And if you don't have it, do something. Just do something out of the norm and see what the reaction is. Just sit down next to your mate and share something that you haven't shared in a very long time and see what the reaction is. They might say, "Well, why are you telling me?" So don't get upset, right? Don't.
Case in point.
Right. So
Case in
don't.
point.
Exactly.
We had a conversation with a couple. Right? And the young lady was speaking.
Mm-hmm.
No, the gentleman was speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turned and he looked towards her, his mate, and she was looking. And he's like, "What? What?" And she said, "Nothing. I'm listening to what you're saying." He goes, "Oh, you never look at me when I'm talking, so you just kind of threw me off." Which was, it was kind of a fun. It was a hilarious moment. But she said, "I'm always paying attention, but I don't always look at you." Like Tina always say. Was she talking?
She was talking, and he looked, and she.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's true. That's true. Yeah, yeah. And she looked around. Like, what's wrong? And he's like, "Nothing. I'm listening to what you're saying." Like,
She was like,
you never look at me.
Right. So
Yeah, that's true.
So if you try something new, expect, like, you might expect the same thing, but you never know. And just keep trying it. Just keep trying it. Don't give up. So if your mate turns around and says something negative because you guys have not been on that elevation trip together,
Yeah.
just hang in there. It'll happen.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
I mean, you're not just gonna say a couple of, we're gonna be okay. I'm changing and everything's gonna be fine. That's not how it's gonna work. You're gonna do some of this to build some of the emotional bond, and it may not work out, or they may not interact the way you want them to. That's okay.
Yep.
Continue to move that way. It's not just one time. So sometimes you might take a few shots.
So, guys, that's it for us tonight. If you tuned in late, make sure you go and look at the replay. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We will see you next Friday. And as always, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you.
Yes, thanks for tuning in. Feel free to give us any questions or comments that you want us to go over. And that is info@legendaryrelationship.com. That's our email. You can send it to us. All right?
Yep.
Or you can always messenger us personally. All right?
Or they can do it off of Instagram and Facebook at Legendary Relationship too.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So as always, we're
in it to win it. Till next week, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.